Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch it so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 7 of Hulu's 9 Perfect Strangers, entitled Wheels on the Bus. I really like this episode because I think it helps one reflect on the decisions that we've made in our lives in the past, how that might have affected how we are going forward, how it shaped us into who we are today. And I think we all deal with a lot of self-doubt and a lot of moments where we might lack a little bit of confidence. And I feel like this episode kind of helped us reflect a little bit. At least it helped me. I can't say us, but I know I found myself reflecting on a lot of the decisions that I've made in the past and how it shaped me and how it could affect decisions that I make going forward. So I found this to be a very introspective episode for me. That might not be the case for a lot of you guys, but for me, that was my experience. So the Wheels on the Bus title refers to Jessica and Ben. They're in the hot tub. Jessica singing Wheels on the Bus, and she says that she feels like the wheels are falling off of this bus. And I felt like that was like the perfect analogy to describe this episode, because this episode is just like replete with like constant moments of like dread, apprehension. You could feel like panic, an escalation, like like we are escalating towards something really bad. A lot of frantic behavior. You see Masha running around like a chicken with her head cut off, being pulled in different directions because everyone's having some sort of tragedy at this moment, and it feels very very tense, very dense. Like, you get that feeling of dread, like something bad is about to happen. And I couldn't agree more with that feeling of the wheels falling off the bus. Because what did I say? I think I don't know. We'll say around episode 4ish or something like that. Episode 5. Like I said, I felt like people were getting into a groove. Everyone was very against what Masha was trying to do at the start. They seemed to kind of be getting into it. The Marconis, Napoleon in particular, was willing to, willingly take the mushrooms or whatever. And, it seemed like everybody was getting more comfortable. Relationships were forming. And then last week we had Francis tell Carmel, you seem to be getting worse. And the escalation in the protocol, which Delilah was so concerned about, does seem to be having a negative impact on the group. It's kind of like, they existed in a world where the psilocybin was making them so happy and comfortable that maybe this was all an illusion. This idea of like them actually turning a corner and getting better was all an illusion. And now that things are escalating and they're getting more concerned, the dosage is going up, maybe that illusion is now transitioning into more of a panic. Like, okay, I don't understand what's happening right now. I don't know what effect these drugs are having on me. And there's just a whole lot of just panic and tension. So I thought that was a very interesting aspect of this episode that we haven't had in this season to this point. So, like I said about the wheels on the bus, right? Well, or like Jessica said about the wheels falling off, we see panic everywhere. Like, I won't say panic, but we'll say like we could see the wheels falling off of the bus in almost every person here. Carmel's freaking out. She thinks that, she attacks Masha as if it's this Lillian person who's currently dating her ex. We see Francis experiencing a lot of self-doubt. The Marconis are grappling with whether or not they want to go with this procedure or not, go with this experience, this level of therapy. Lars is grappling with how much he wants to, how willing he is to allow Masha to continue to escalate things, given the knowledge that he knows as an investigative reporter. Delilah, her wheels are falling off her bus, as they have been all season, and she's ready to go. And I think I'm going to start with her and Francis, because that wasn't my plan to start with, but I feel like this is a good time to transition and talking about them. I feel like both of those characters have been a bit underserved. Francis, I feel like is less of a character arc and more of like an incline and then a straight line across. Like, it seems like every week at this point, she's just finding new and different ways to say, I have a lot of self-doubt. I have a lot of self-confidence issues. I'm having trouble dealing with what Paul Drabble did to me. And it's starting to get pretty repetitive at this point. I really liked what Melissa McCarthy has done this season. And I think the Frances character overall is very interesting, but it really does seem like every week is a new way of saying, I have self-doubt. This week she compares it to how she felt as a kid. Before I was confident, and now I kind of feel like over time, life has chipped away at her, and she's become, more into the person that she is today. And I think that while I do feel like her character has kind of like plateaued, I do really like that comparison. Not comparison, but like that explanation, that description, because I feel like that happens to all of us. We get into a point where, the nature of life might not necessarily chip away at us, but it'll make us more cynical, more negative, more pessimistic and doubtful, just because when you see the true nature of things as you get older and you start to understand things more, it can make you a bit more jaded. So I like that idea of life is kind of like chipped away at her to where she doesn't have that almost like naivete, like, of this positivity and this self-confidence. And now it's like, I'm realizing just the nature of the world and how things are happening around me and how that's affecting me. And it's making me lesser than who I felt that I was back then. But that's one of those, hindsight's 2020 things, right? Like, I doubt 16-year-old Frances was sitting there like, yo, life is fucking awesome. And now, say, I don't know how old Melissa McCarthy is, but we'll say 40-year-old Frances is looking back like 60-year-old Frances didn't know what the fuck she was talking about. It's not, the circumstances haven't changed. It's just your perception of them have changed based on how, increased knowledge and increased life experiences. So I find that aspect of this episode as it pertains to Frances to be interesting. It made me think, but I do still feel like her character is kind of plateaued into different ways of describing how she lacks self-confidence now. And it is starting to become, I don't want to say uninteresting, because like I said, I felt like this comparison to past Frances to current Frances was interesting in this episode, but I do still feel like it's like, okay, can we have her get over a hump somehow? We have her in the sauna with Tony, and she's like, and her self-doubt essentially ruins that relationship. She says she doesn't know if them being together and getting together and failing, or getting together and succeeding, she doesn't know if either of those options is a good one. And he says something to the effect of, that's not the worst thing that anyone's ever said to me, but it's in the running, or it's close, or it's high up, something like that. So we see how that affected her situation with Tony. But like, we got new events, but I still feel like the character's kind of plateaued a little bit. And I feel the same way about Delilah. I don't feel like Delilah's been on any kind of arc at all. I feel like she's just been a straight line the whole time. And I feel like Delilah, we could have, with only one episode left, it would have helped me understand and be more empathetic with Delilah if we had a little bit more insight into why she alone is so opposed to what Masha's doing. Like, they all experienced the death of this Aaron Connolly person, right? And we've seen it in flashbacks here and there, but we don't really know the nature of what happened there, what that experience was like, and maybe what role she might have played that has made this a situation for her where she's like, I'm not going to be complicit. I'm getting out. If you want to stay, fuck off. I'm out of here. Like, and the whole season she's been like that. Masha, you're going too far. Masha, why are you escalating the protocol? Masha, why are you increasing the doses? Masha, this is getting dangerous. And it's just constant doubt and pushing back. And we just don't have a very clear idea of why she is so adamantly opposed to everything, other than we know that this Aaron Connolly guy died, but that's it. And that was an experience for everybody. But Yao's not doing that. Masha's clearly not doing that. The other one, what's her name? I forget the other one's name. The one that we never see. She doesn't seem to have an issue either. So I feel like Delilah's been a bit underserved. So moving on to Masha and her crew a little bit. I've talked about Delilah a little bit already, but we end the episode, but with her, we end the episode with her not being able to get out. She decides she wants to leave. Yao doesn't want to come. She can't get the gate open. She calls Masha. Masha says she's not going to open it. So Delilah drives through a wooden fence. And that is a completely justifiable response to me. Like, that gave me heavy cult vibes. Like, hey, I want to leave. Oh, you can't leave. Oh, okay, what the fuck you mean I can't leave? I would have done the same thing. Like, open the gate. No? You tell me no? All right. I thought she was going to just drive through the gate. I don't know how secure it is, but she found that fence and she got out of there. But Yeah, I'm really interested to see, or I don't even want to say interested to see, because I feel like we're probably not going to get much more information that's going to justify why Delilah is feeling the way she's feeling. And even if we do, I feel like it's too little too late. Like, I would have liked to have gotten that a little bit earlier so that her eruption in this episode resonates a little bit more. But it doesn't hit as hard because right now we just know that she's been opposed this whole time, but we don't really know why. At least in depth. We know why in a very vague sense. Like, okay, somebody died, and that's really it. That's all we know. So I like to see. I would have liked to have seen some more there, because I don't think we're going to get too much more into that. At least not in depth. So the Marconis have a whole situation where they're debating whether or not they want to go along with this therapy or whatever you want to call it, experiment, to see Zach. Napoleon has a great moment where he says that he doesn't think that he can forgive Heather if they don't do this. And he says something to the effect of, like, reason is no match for pain. And man, they've given him some great lines, and he's delivered them incredibly. And I think it hits even harder considering, like, the fake jovial version of him that we saw at the beginning. And now we're seeing him really grapple with his emotions and struggling and grappling with that idea of, all this time I felt all this guilt and worry over being responsible because I just didn't, maybe I just slept in, I didn't wake up in time or whatever. And come to find out, Heather either saw this warning on this medication and did nothing, or she did something out of her ordinary, which was not read it at all. Either way, he looks at her as like, okay, she's responsible one way or another. And that's got to be tough to deal with. So, and I think Michael Shannon's doing a great job of conveying that idea of, like, I don't know if I can forgive this. And coming from a guy who was so jovial earlier on, particularly probably because he wants to make sure that he does what he can to stay in good standing with Heather, where now he's like, he doesn't give a fuck about being in good standing with Heather. She needs to be in good standing with him. So I think that's a really interesting turn for that character and that family as well. And then what's interesting is Napoleon and Heather seem in on this. Zoe doesn't. When it's finally about time for it to happen, now they're all hesitant. And they're like, I don't know, maybe this isn't a good idea. And then Masha goes, all right, well, I'm going to come with you. And I'm going to lead you on this journey from within. And they're like, okay. And she's like, Yao's going to, be out here watching over everything, yada, yada. And they all just drink the shit. And I thought, wow, that was really easy to convince them to do that. And then it made me wonder, as we see Lars there, Lars is filming this, and they've already had a situation earlier, which I'll get to in a moment with Lars. And Masha says, she's asked, have you done this before? She says, yes, and it worked great, changed his life. And you see Lars looking like, excuse me? and later on, Lars confronts her like, you said everything went fine, but this guy died. And, we find out that he died from, like, eating too many burgers and having heart failure or something like that. And it was completely unrelated to the therapy. And he used this, Aaron Conley guy, used this to see his brother. And it makes me wonder if Masha this entire time has been using the Marconis with the knowledge that Zoe is quote unquote the key to get this procedure going to where she can join in. Like, her intention the whole time was to join in so that she can use this for her to see her daughter. And it's never been about the Marconis at all. I'm wondering if that's kind of the direction that's going. Let's see. So I talked about Lars. He gets the opportunity to have a conversation with Masha and kind of reveal, what he knows about the Connollys and whatnot. We know that this Aaron guy died, the heart attack from the burgers, whatever. And he confronts her about everything she says. And now he's starting to look like he's ready to maybe not spill the beans or do something. And there was an interesting moment that I think it kind of is aligned with what I just said, but he doesn't say it directly. But I think Lars also suggests that Masha is doing this so she could see her daughter. He doesn't say flat out directly like you're using the Marconis to be able to see your daughter, but he says like you're doing this for someone else. And I'm interested to see if this if he ends up writing this report, what it's going to look like. So I talked about Frances already. I kind of feel like she's plateaued. Let's see, do I have anything else in my notes that I want to talk about? I talked about her situation with Tony. So no, I I think I've said everything about Francis that I wanted to say. Tony didn't get too much to do this week. All his interactions with Francis, and they were minimal. Ben and Jessica, as usual, have been entirely pointless. They don't even need to be here at this point to me. Like, they're every week they get a scene where that showcases that they're happy, and then and that's it. And we've gotten that for like 3-4 straight weeks now. Like, Ben and Jessica continue to be incredibly underserved. And then lastly, Carmel. So Carmel's kind of the star of this episode. We see early on she attacks Masha for thinking that, she attacks Masha because she thinks that it's this Lillian person who's currently dating her ex-husband. And, you know, with Carmel, we've seen the behavior extremes, right? She's either soft, timid, pleasurable, kind of a doormat, you know, very, very meek. I think meek is the best way to put it. Or she completely flies off the handle to the level of violence. And I think I said early on, I said, you know, maybe Carmel is bipolar. And now I'm starting to think it's not so much bipolar. It might be like a multiple personality disorder kind of thing. So Carmel attacks Masha. She ends up getting sedated, put in that same, hospital room that Heather was in last week. And then she kind of gets confined to a room. And we see her dancing around. She's behaving very strangely. We see her take a phone out of a lamp, so we know she's had a hidden phone this whole time. Masha comes in. Carmel basically says, I need to go. It's not safe for you if I'm here. And Masha's kind of like, whatever. And then Carmel goes, puts in a contact, comes back and says, how can I explain this? It's not safe for you. And then we see that the eyes match up with the flashbacks that Masha has had of being shot. And we see what appears to be a bearded man who shoots her, but with the same eye situation. So now it makes me wonder, I'm not going to say it makes me wonder. I think it's pretty clear that that's Carmel in disguise, but it's interesting to me that she puts on a disguise that goes to the level of like a fake contact, a fake beard. Like, I feel like you could just, put on a hoodie, kind of cover your face if you want to secretly do something like that. But she puts on a whole costume. And we've seen her talk about being on psychotropics, wondering if what she was given was going to clash with her medication. Ever since then, she's gotten worse. And it makes me wonder if she's on medication for like multiple personality. Like, she says like that side, she keeps referring to it as that side of me, or that's not who I am sometimes or most of the time. And it makes me wonder if these two people for Carmel are entirely separate people. That like, this isn't her pretending. Like, she's not here with the full intention of attacking Masha or threatening Masha. Like, I don't think she literally came there for that purpose, and that all of this has been an act. I think that there are multiple personalities, and the personality that shot her is the same one that wanted to come here, probably came here with the idea for revenge. That's the one that's been doing the stuff with the phone. And then sometimes she's normal Carmel, where she doesn't even think about that kind of stuff. And she thinks that she's here for wholesome reasons. She just wants to learn who Masha is so she can become her, all this kind of stuff. So I think that these are split personalities, and neither of them really interact with one another. And I think that's kind of only the viable explanation for what's happening here, because if she was purposely acting, that wouldn't feel right to me. That wouldn't feel like something we've gotten proper justification for. But I do like the idea that she might be grappling with multiple personalities. I don't see any other reason why she would be on psychotropics. So really interesting development there, because I kind of feel like, even though I said I don't think it was Carmel that's been threatening Masha, because that's the obvious answer, I still don't think technically it was Carmel. I think it's whoever this other personality of hers is, who has kind of become more unleashed because of the drugs that she's been on. So that's what I think is happening. That's what I hope is happening. I don't think there's much more of a viable explanation other than that. I feel like they've given us sufficient clues and hints here and there that might be what it is. But I think, this episode was like an escalation and a build up, and like kind of like the calm before the storm. And I don't want to say calm because this wasn't calm, but it was just like a build up to what is probably going to be an utter fucking disaster in the finale, as far as it pertains to Carmel as far as it pertains to the Marconis and as it pertains to Masha, Yao, and Delilah. So should be a wild one next week. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm at 20 minutes now. There's a lot to digest about this episode. So if you guys want to talk about anything, drop it in the comments. Remember to share. Remember to hit those notifications. Remember to check out my other videos. I got other stuff coming. I just started, Scenes from a Marriage on HBO. Just started covering that. So lots of good stuff coming up. So see you guys next week for the finale. Peace.